Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Are you tired of grinding away to make money, feeling like you need to clone yourself to make your business a success? I know, I was once there too, working 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week with no me time and totally overwhelmed. I knew there had to be an easier and more fun way to make massive money. And that's when I discovered passive income. Fast forward years later, and now I consistently make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year while I sleep and with little of my time. My Lord, is this a freeing and empowering feeling. It's my mission and passion to teach all of you to do the same. So I created the exclusive ProjectME Passive Income Posse, where I directly teach you how to incorporate passive income streams into your life and business. If you desire the same financial freedom I've created, message me on Instagram or Facebook at ProjectME with Tiffany, and I will send you the group application requirements. We're keeping this group small so everyone gets customized guidance and attention. All right, now back to today's episode. Welcome to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. You guys, I brought on another Chicago girl. It's amazing. Like I always say, like attracts like, and it seems like location attracts location. Although I've moved far away from that, but she's also from Chicago. Crazy. All right. So I have on the owner of Jenny Taylor Boudoir Photography and the founder of the Sparkle lifestyle brand, Jenny Taylor. She is most well known for taking these amazing, empowering boudoir style photos for women of all ages. In fact, she just told me before we started that she just had in her 85-year-old grandma. Like, that's rocking it. Like, I'm down. I love it. What's up, Jenny?
What's up, girl? How are you? Thanks for that awesome introduction.
I mean, I think that is so cool. I mean, I see a lot of boudoir like photography or photographers, on Instagram and stuff like that. But clearly your brand is the gold standard. So why is that? Is it because you were first to the market or is there something extra special you guys are doing?
Oh, well, thank you. We're going on a decade in business right now, which I'm so proud of my team. They're amazing. What I did a long time ago is when I started, I would put up the clients that booked me. And that was like when Facebook business pages were very new. And so I created this business page and I remember putting up a couple of my clients and I had the real photographers in quotes that would reach out to me and say, why did you put this type of woman up? And I'd be like, what do you mean? And they'd say, well, you're not going to be successful because they don't look like models. And I remember getting that, message. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like I never even thought of that. I'm just working with any woman that wants to book me. And I knew right then I was onto something, that this isn't about a certain way that someone needs to look. When I started the first day, I come from like a really small cornfield town outside of Chicago. And it's like literally little white churches. My grandma's the librarian. My mom was a first grade school teacher. So when I say I come from a square conservative family, when I told them that I wanted to do boudoir, I thought my mom was going to just like die when I told her that. And I was like, no, like it's going to be really pretty and like Victoria's Secret style, because when I was searching back then, I would find like men in basements with like flash photography. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would never want to do that. So even the first day when I started, I said, no nudity. This is not about lingerie, and that women, you don't have to bring that in to feel beautiful. We'll do your hair and makeup. And if you want to bring a dress. And so what happened was over time is like I redesigned the word boudoir into more of like a confidence boosting empowerment experience where all women of all walks of life, body shape, sizes, age, races, sexual orientation, like everyone is welcome at my studios. And so that's what really like differentiated us. And when you see our style of photos, what I want to do is super classic, photography so that like years down the road, 20, 30 years, clients can take out their books and say that they felt proud to be there, safe, comfortable, and just felt gorgeous for the day.
So take me back to before you created Jenny Taylor Boudoir Photography. Were you a photography student? Were you always playing with a camera? How did you get into this?
So I have zero business training, no photography training. I literally bought $1,000 camera 10 years ago, and I had 6 clients before I even opened the box. So I wanted to be a photographer since I got my first camera at 8. My grandma, who is one of my clients, got me my little pink Kodak camera, and my family was, I've had a very tumultuous life, lots of trauma and tragedy and rock bottom moments through my life. And I remember getting the camera at 8, and my parents were getting divorced. And so my life really fell apart at that point. I felt that's when my anxiety had started, and I felt sad and angry and fearful and all those things. And so when I got this camera, I didn't know this then, but I know this now, is the reason I fell in love with it was because I got to say, hey, let me take your picture and can I make you smile? And so what it did for me was it made me feel happy that I was seeing someone else happy. And so I took that as my own mirror throughout my whole life. And so when I was feeling sad and angry and fearful, I never knew it, but I was like, let me take your pictures. Let me see you happy. And so I just uncovered all of that from my own self-discovery about 5 years ago when I was in this like super horrible relationship. And so that's kind of how that started. And 10 years ago, I was in this amazing corporate job, making like $150,000 a year, working 20 hours a week, and loved it. And I literally told my family and friends back then, I'm just going to be a photographer. And literally everybody said, you can't just do that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to. So I quit my job and I just started this company with nothing. And it's just such a piece of my heart when I get to see these women come in, and oh my gosh, these women come in for so many reasons. Like, of course, for groom's gifts, which is popular, and birthdays and anniversaries. But the women over these years, I've heard the most amazing stories, from, they've gotten divorced, they left an abusive relationship, or they're in one and they want to feel good, or they got a disease diagnosis, or they beat cancer, or whatever it is. Like, this is more about this amazing experience I designed. It's not about like lingerie or clothing or anything like that.
I want to go back to something you said, and you guys know, who are, longtime listeners, and thank you for that, that I'm a huge believer in, how the universe brings people together. Like I said at the top of the show, like attracts like. I too have a similar story in the sense that I was in a very high profile, lucrative corporate job before I did my straddling method. I didn't just quit like you did. So I'm a little more conservative in that way. But people thought I was fucking nuts because it's like, you have basically an unlimited expense account. I would say I was making, between 150 and 200 a year. I mean, people thought I was nuts. So let me ask you, like, you said you actually loved what you were doing in corporate America. So then what was the driving force of being an entrepreneur and leaving something you actually loved that was also paying you a lot?
I've been in sales since I was 3 years old, selling rocks to my neighbors. And that's a long time. And so I just have always been in sales. And so back then I was working at this flooring company directly with the owner of this $50 million company. And I was doing like Wrigley Field and like the really fun, big corporate projects. On the other hand, I was selling carpet. So it was like, do you want beige or beige? Like, I was bored out of my mind, but it was a really cool experience and learning opportunity for me. I don't know what came over me 10 years ago that just said, you're going to do this now. Like, I've always been I work on anger. I've just realized that in the last couple of years. And I really am successful because when I get angry, instead of blowing up or punching someone or all that kind of stuff that you can do, I open up businesses. So when someone tells me no, I'm like, well, let me show you then what I'm going to do instead. And it's kind of, gotten me into some trouble over the years with, I opened up multiple businesses because of it. But this was one that, after 10 years, that's a really long time to stay in business. They say like 5% of businesses stay in for 10 years. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just a little bit of, I don't know why the universe told me right then, hey, you need to do this. And I just did it.
Well, we don't always have to know why, right? I just think it's awesome that you had the guts to follow it. And yes, your statistic is correct. I've been an entrepreneur. I have my first business for 11 years. This business, ProjectME with Tiffany, is like 9.5 months. But you're right. I highly respect you for that. And, I tell people those are the people you really want to follow and absorb and study, because they have a proven track record over time. It's not like a one-year wonder, so to speak. So I want to acknowledge you for that. That's awesome, girl.
Thank you so very much for saying that. It's been a hard road, exciting, inspiring, learning. Like, I just got chills when you just said that. Like, it's been such an amazing journey, and I hope that I can do this until the day I die.
What is it, would you say? I'm so curious. It's rare that I meet other females that are not, like 70 years old, other females who've had businesses for that long. I mean, really rare. I can count it on one hand. Yeah. So I'm selfishly asking this too. I'm so curious what you have to say. What is it, do you think you attribute the longevity to your business? Because when you're in business long enough, guys, P.S., the shit inevitably hits the fan at least a few times.
Oh, yeah. I just had the shit hit the fan in the last 3 months. Actually, it was probably the worst. Yes, I absolutely. One thing that I feel like the reason this company stayed, we have 5 stars in every city across the country. We only have 2 negative reviews at all. And one was about pricing. So anyways, I created it. I knew the first day that I started this company that I wanted to live it in a high level of integrity, where I was never going to promise something I couldn't deliver. So at the beginning, I had a lot of brides that would call and say, oh, I'm getting married in a month. Can you get me this book? And I'm like, no, we can't. Like, it takes a month and a half. And so I would never collect someone's money unless I knew I could fulfill what their desire was on the other end, as well as blowing them away with what they booked. So if someone's, spending $1,000, I give them XYZ extras where they never are expecting it. So they're already blown away with that. The other thing is, I wanted not only a high level of integrity, but to have fun. And that was another thing. I just love having fun. I love seeing people smile and laugh and dance. And that's like my goal of the day, is to have fun. And so I wanted fun people to be with me on this journey if I ever needed to have a team. Back then it was just me, but now I have 30 girls across the country that help me in this specific company. And the culture that I've created it's not only this amazing experience I designed for each client, but it's this amazing experience I designed for my team. And so I only hire previous clients to work with me so that they understand what the clients feel like, because 95% of women will say they're nervous, they don't look good enough, whatever that is, blah, blah, blah. And so the girls that work with me not only love their position with the company and what they specifically do to help the client, because it makes them feel good inside, but I have literally taken my girls to every single fun city in the country for fun. Paris, France, one of the girls I took over there to do my hair and makeup one time. I believe that in order to have a successful company, when you have other people working for you, that if you do not treat those team members like you would for yourself, who the heck is going to do the job when you're not there? I cannot replicate myself. I know that. And so I have to have people that are going to have the vision, love it as much as me. And I've created this so we just had the worst experience of my whole company, I would say, in the last 4 months. And one reason was because, this is even hard for me to say, when you have a cancerous type of person in a group, no matter who the other people are, even if they're positive, those cancerous people start kind of breaking other people down and clients. And I didn't realize that I had one of those people in my company. And I finally realized it was, and I cut her out literally an hour after the 12th thing I found out. And when I started the business, I decided I was never going to have like this catty group of women work with me. I wanted everyone to be not, I don't expect for people to be friends with each other, but we're there to support each other and be cheerleaders. And that's what else I feel like has really had this amazing longevity of this company is it's not about me just because I fund it and my name's on the building. This is about my clients and my team as a whole entity all into one thing, I guess, to make it successful.
Some key takeaways that I got from that I 1,000,000% agree with. And here's the thing, you guys. Success actually isn't complicated. It's simple as fuck. And she over delivers and under promises. Did you hear that? And that goes for you guys who, whether you're one of my employees listening, thank you, or you help support someone else, or maybe your business is a business where you're helping support someone, you're a virtual assistant, you're a content creator, whatever the hell it is. When you under promise and over deliver, that's what creates repeat customers, makes people feel good. That comes from a place of generosity. And obviously you're generous with your people. So you don't have a scarcity mindset. Like I teach money mindset. So you didn't grow up in some lavish lifestyle. You grew up, like you said, in a cornfield. Were you poor?
Yeah, girl. I don't like saying poverty, but I mean, my story is my parents got divorced. It's me, my mom, and my little sister. And I remember in third grade, I asked her, could you buy me a pair of Abercrombie jeans? Because they were cool back then. And she looked at me and got tears in her eyes at third grade. And she said, and I could get tears right now thinking about it, I love my mom. And she said, Jenny, those are $42 and we only have $42 for 2 weeks that we need to survive with food and all your activities and things like that. And I quickly realized I'd always been making money because I was 3 years old and I started working. I don't know where that came from. And so I really remember then like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to be like the other kids, or I needed to learn how to like make food to make it last for like 5 days. So really, I also took that all the way through. I mean, I didn't graduate college, and I came to a point when I was 21 where I was like 30,000 in debt, and I had a decision if I was either going to claim bankruptcy or call all of the debt collectors and try to make some deals with them, which I was good at. And that's what I did end up doing. But yeah, I mean, I literally love telling and teaching people my skills and tools to like, if I can build a multi-million-dollar company with literally just my drive and an opportunity, then anybody else can do that too. So if anyone's thinking like, oh, I didn't go to school for this, or I don't have the money to start my passion or follow my dream, if you believe in yourself, the universe will deliver the right people, places, and experiences for you to be successful. And every person listening to this podcast, we all have an opportunity. That's what we have. So, yeah, I mean, that's the goal.
Where did you develop this, so to speak, positive relationship with abundance and money when you grew up, quite frankly, in scarcity?
I totally did. And my family still lives in that mindset also. I think I remember the day bringing all the bills home to my mom at 21, and she put them on the table and she said, you have to do one of two things: claim bankruptcy or figure out how to pay these off. And I remember right then I got my first credit card at 17. I went to BB and I bought a shirt, and that shirt ended up costing me like $900. That was like $50 like years later. And I remember sitting there thinking that. And I remember going to BB, giving this plastic thing, knowing I didn't have the money for it. And I said, my level, somewhere in me, my integrity, I thought, I'm the one who rang up these bills. I'm the one who bought all this stuff that I didn't need or couldn't afford. So how I felt like a loser back then. Like I couldn't feel worse. Like I'd feel like the biggest failure back then if I would have claimed bankruptcy. Not like I judge anybody if anybody had to do that. This was just my own journey. And I just had to learn, hey, like, how did I get here and where do I want to go? The other thing I always have done in my life is what would I want my 10-year future self to be like and how can I get there? And I knew that at 21, I never thought I'd be a millionaire at 31, but I just knew I was going to be out of debt and I was going to be making money. And so, saving and not buying the red bottom shoes, which I hope I don't offend you by saying that, but like people that don't have the money, like I don't believe in this, like listen to your higher self that like guides you into these red bottom shoes. If you don't have the $1,000, don't fricking buy them. Like that's my mindset when it comes to money. Don't spend it if you don't have it. Live way, way, way below your means. And when you can do that, if you keep building wealth, if you live at a 30%, mentality and you're making 150% more, then invest that and make more money. And it's life lessons. And I think I felt like I was by myself because I didn't have anyone teaching me this. And all I knew was that I didn't want to feel that fear and sadness that I felt when I was younger from not even being able to buy a pair of jeans, that I will never live that way ever again.
Yeah, there's always a deeper motivating factor that is tied to an excruciating pain point. Always. And I always get curious with other successful people, entrepreneurs, what that is. And I appreciate you sharing that because some people aren't aware of what it is. I wasn't aware for many years. Like you said, anger is a big driver for you. And I want to get into that because you already mentioned, so clearly you're open. You've had quite a bit of trauma. In fact, you've created a brand in order to help women work through their trauma, right?
Oh, yeah.
So dish on it. Tell us what's up, whatever you're comfortable with. I don't know if you're as blunt as I am about it, so I'm respectful of that.
I go really in depth when I'm in the public speaking mode, and I share those stories to people that come to the conferences and things like that. And so, here's the thing. People see this is what I hear from people. They see my photos and I go to the most amazing places in the world because I've saved my money to be able to go. And I have this great picture of me in this amazing pink dress in Santorini. And people, when they see me first, they'll say, oh my gosh, your life must be perfect. You look this way, whatever. And I'm like, no. I have all this other shit that I've been through. And just because I have a great picture in Santorini, that is one part of my life, but I'm a whole person and I have all these things that I've experienced. And like, that is my mission on this planet, is not only to help people see like their worth and that they're good enough. And, if I can do it, they can do it too. Like, I don't know. I have such a passion for helping people, but yeah, I mean, I've been through things, my parents getting divorced was really the catalyst of my entire life that split me into this anxious person my whole life. And, like I said, I didn't graduate college and I felt like a total failure. I make the joke where I was born completely flat chested and I felt super insecure my whole life. And that really made me feel, terribly sad and angry that I wasn't like everyone else. And I'd make the joke, if you cut my head off when I was younger, you wouldn't know the front from my back. And that was really hard and painful to go through because I say to people, like, if you weren't born with a nose, you just want your nose, just to feel like a regular whole woman or a person. And not graduating college was very sad when my friends were all getting like teaching jobs and I had nothing. I got divorced when I was 21, which I've been married a few times, which I'm not proud of, and had to learn in the last 5 years why I decided to choose some of the people I chose in my life and why I called those experiences in. And thank goodness I had the worst relationship on the planet 5 years ago. I was in this, and lots of other things had happened in the middle as well, but I found myself in this super emotionally abusive relationship to where I thought I met Prince Charming. And I didn't. I grew up in the fairy tale Cinderella, story of, not that I wanted to be Cinderella, but that whole story. And that I had already been married before this person. And so I thought God brought me the person that actually was supposed to be the person I was going to be with forever. And it was literally like we fell in love instantly, where now I know that that's not a real thing. And, he just, when I say swooped me off my feet, I make the joke, like he came up with not the white horse, he came up with the white Porsche and he picked me up. And and, proposed in the most beautiful place. And where do you want to get married? And I'm like, how about Paris? And okay, let's do that 2 months later. And so we had this amazing Paris wedding. And it was just like, I remember like seeing him that day and like the Eiffel Tower was on my left side. And I thought, wow, God, I had to go through all these hard times to now be here in this situation. And 3 weeks afterwards, everything changed. And I just got chills. And so I didn't know what was going on in this relationship at that time. Everything was so controlled. And I remember like even just the first day, like, let me show you how to fold the towels correctly. And I'm like, fold them correctly? Like, I've been folding towels for 30 years. Well, there's this certain way you need to do it. And my ex-wife did them this way and she did them really good. So you should really know how she pleased me with these towels. So I remember like, oh my good. All right. Well, I want to please you. So I'll do these towels. And then it was little by little every day. It was, you need to park in this certain spot. You need to brush your teeth a certain way. You need to, this whole list. So what happened over 9 months, I was in this fully controlled environment where he would go check like if the microwave had fingerprints on it, or, if I didn't put my shoes in the right spot or whatever it was. It was crazy. And so I got like, where I lost 20 pounds, I only weigh 130. And so for me to lose 20, I was like a skeleton. And it was very quickly, and people were like, what's going on? And I didn't want to tell anybody because it wasn't really like, he wasn't, physically harming me, or it was hard for me to understand because all I wanted to do was make him happy. And he was never happy with me. So, I tried to like fix myself to make him happy. So I remember like walking into my therapist office 5 years ago, she's like my best coach ever and completely helped me change my entire life. And I walked in and I said like, this is what I'm going through. And I knew I couldn't blame him, even though I was walking in there because of him technically. I didn't know I was actually walking in to reconstruct my whole self. I didn't know how broken I was until I walked in that day. And when she asked me like, well, how do you feel? I'm like, oh, I feel fine. And she's like, fine. Well, then why are you here? And I'm like, oh, she goes, well, like normally. And I go, I don't know. I feel anxious and funny. And she's like, well, funny isn't an emotion. And I'm like, at that point, I didn't know what emotions were. Okay. When I say that, like I knew what happy was and I knew what sad was. And I knew people that were angry in quotes, like what they looked like. I didn't have a full range of emotions 5 years ago. Like when she said anxiety, I realized that it was fear, anger, and sadness all wrapped into this ball that would like control me, coming and stemming all the way back from when I was 5. And so basically her technique is to, allow the little girl inside of us to be able to tell our story and have the little girl be able to tell her story from a place where then you can rewire your subconscious in order to change the trajectory of your behavior patterns. And so with all of that, I've spent $250,000 over 5 years investing in this experience with her and other people. And I've designed my own program now that I help other women from the feeling of stuck or not good enough, or, that comes out in so many different ways. Anxiety, stress, worry, whatever that is. And I help them on this basis of let's have this little girl or boy inside of you be able to tell their story. And it's hard. And this is not for everybody. And it's an amazing journey. And my favorite things to hear after they come out of this is, oh my gosh, the sun seems like it's brighter. Or, oh my gosh, the weight on my chest that I've had for so long, I can't even remember, is now lifted. Or I've moved that stone in my stomach away. I feel like I can eat again. And it's like, that is what I feel like. I just got chills again. I feel like the universe put me on this planet for all of these, I didn't get into all of them, but these really rock bottom, crazy experiences I had to go through to be able to stand tall now and say, I am good enough and I do deserve the best and I am worthy. And if I can go through all of these things and make it out on the other side, alive, happy, and wanting to live a positive life, then all people can do that too, no matter where they're at or what they're going through. Life is hard. And I'm not the first one to say, oh, it's sparkly and it's like frosting on the cake every day. yeah, you can change your mindset into that. But realistically, we all go through things, disease, money troubles, work, relationships, kids, whatever it is. And that's all normal. And so these tools that I help and give to other people are just, it makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing on the planet.
Oh my God. The more we get to know each other, you're going to trip. Like we're a mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. All my listeners right now, take a screenshot. Okay. Take a screenshot, post it, tag me, Project Me with Tiffany, and tag at everything Jenny Taylor, JennyTaylor. If you agree. You got, I know there's going to be like tons of screenshots. We have very similar stories and similar missions. And I definitely can see why the universe connected us. And I'm grateful you went through that. And that is hard work. There is nothing harder than going through the pain. We try so hard to go around the pain, and then that causes the chaos. And as I like to say, we're the common denominator. We can point the finger at the horrible, abusive boyfriends or the husbands or the debt or whatever, but we're the common denominator and all that. So I know everyone's probably dying to know, well, what happened with this asshole husband of yours?
Oh my goodness. Well, luckily, I never signed the legal papers because we got married technically in France. So that was like the biggest, best win, one of them, and I made it out alive. But, it came to the point where, so I'd been for 9 months as I'm losing 20 pounds and losing myself. I luckily had this therapist with me, and I was going anywhere from 2 to 9 hours a week. That's how intense I was taking this, to like this level of, I have got to figure this out. I have to. I didn't know who I was before I walked in the door. And that's like, now I know how weird that sounds. But back then I would say to people like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's going on. I had no boundaries. I had nothing. Not like, I was just like this like piece of jello, like in the air, like just doing whatever, like trying to be happy. Like it was ridiculous. I don't even know how I got at this tangent, but anyways, oh yes, how we split up. So after those 9 months, as when he would go in, he would say it was all my fault and that he wouldn't take any responsibility. And I just kept going because I was like, well, I'm learning so much about my past and I'm learning so much about me that it became less about him and more about how I didn't know I had all these pieces that were broken apart at that point. So it was so exciting for me to say, oh my gosh, I know that the anxiety was linked to when I was 5 and I was playing with my Barbies and my parents are in the other room, fighting, and all I wanted to do was make them happy. And so we grew apart. And when I remember the day he started then tearing down each one of my family members, and my family is amazing, sweet, awesome people. And when he did that, something inside of me said, you need to stop this now. And I told him that, and he took off his wedding ring and he threw it out the car window. And after that, he, we have not had any contact. He moved out like 2 weeks later. I've never talked to him again ever since. And it's like the best thing on the planet. Because it kind of is like a figment of my imagination that did he really exist or didn't he? Because it was such an intense 2 years of my life. And I feel like I was that caterpillar that came out with wings or the phoenix that rose again. Like I feel like my whole life transformed. So instead of saying that was the worst time of my whole life, it was actually 5 years ago was the most transformative, best gift I ever could have got for myself. From finding him. So the universe gave me him as the opportunity to learn about myself and now help others.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, it's easy to say when something great happens, whether we find a great parking spot or get a client or get a check in the mail. It's easy to say, oh my God, the universe brought me this. But then it's funny because a lot of people won't then acknowledge that the universe also brings you the shit too. Those are gifts too, especially the really painful ones, because that's where we grow if we choose to do any damn thing about it. So how did you keep your multi-million-dollar business afloat during all this? Because that sounds almost impossible to me.
So you're right. And I'm so glad we already talked about this at the beginning of this podcast. I keep getting chills talking to you, like literally. So I attribute the company was going to go under. Like it was the worst in the worst financial straits that I had ever had at that point 4 years ago. And the only reason it stayed in business was because of my team, who loves it so much that the company runs pretty much without me. And the amazing, like, building a 5-star company is something I knew I wanted from the first day I started. I wasn't even gonna be okay with 4 stars. And back in the day when I would get like a 4-star review, I'd call the people like, "Hey, how could I change? Like, what could I do for you?" And like, listen, and they would change it. And so, after the business was in business for 5 years, that is what made it continue on, was that I built such a stable, positive business, and the team members that I had, it wasn't me anymore. And that is when I also realized that this is bigger than me. This is my company, but it's all these other people's company too. And that's what I would encourage all business owners, that they have, especially like single entrepreneurs. If something happens to one of us, we need to have the right things in place so that the company can keep going on, because my mental state was not running my company. It was learning how to reconstruct myself from the inside out, which took me like a year and a half to do. So I'm so grateful for the time and energy that I had put in before that. It was also just ironically at that point when I met him, the company literally skyrocketed. It's never hit the revenue it ever has since then. We started having like all the girls like from Vanderpump Rules that came out, like Sheena came out for her shoot, and Bachelor and Bachelorette girls. And so a lot of the girls from California were flying to Chicago in the winter to get these pictures done. And so that's when the company, like worldwide, people were flying in from Germany, Italy, like all over the place. And that's when I met him, and then everything kind of like went straight down. So it's been a learning experience. And I think any business that's been in business 5, 8, 10 years, you can look back and say like, it's learning lessons, just like everything else. You know what I mean? A business is its own kind of like person by itself a little bit.
Oh my God. That's for sure. Yep. It gets sick.
Yeah.
It gets hungry. It gets
some
fat.
Days it funny, some days it doesn't. Yeah, totally.
I like that. So you do a lot of stuff. So how do you have the energy to be able to do all this? I mean, you go between 3 different cities. You follow her at everything, Jenny Taylor. You are all over the place all the time, and yet you seem like you're fresh as a daisy. So how is this possible?
I don't know, but one thing I would say is ever since I was a baby, my mom always says, I've been able to sleep. Like I can literally meditate and fall asleep in probably a minute, I would say. And so I sleep 8 hours a night, no matter like 29 days of the month. And I feel like that keeps my energy up. And the other thing, I take a nap almost every day for 20 minutes to where I don't even need to set an alarm. My brain goes off 19 and a half minutes and it'll wake me up. So that's a practice that I encourage people to get into if they can, because instead of the caffeine, I don't have caffeine unless it's like right in the morning. And so that caffeine that I used to drink would keep me up all night. Now, instead, I take a nap and it refreshes my brain and I can get up and keep working. I have this drive I love connecting with people. I love hearing people's stories, no matter men, women, whatever age. I just love people that can open up. That keeps my drive going. I love seeing the women that come into my studios feel not good enough, and they see themselves. And it's not really about the hair and makeup, even though we do amazing hair and makeup transformations. It is more of this like piece of them that they see that they've always known is there, but that they just see themselves in a different way. I feel like I'm contributing to the planet just with all of these different things. And so that's what I just love, people, most all people. And I really just like, if I'm not one of those like tree huggers or like I want to change the world and world peace, like I would love that. I know it's not realistic, but if I can do my thing with the people that I meet, I feel like I've accomplished everything I can in life.
So, what do you do on those days or weeks? Because those of us, especially who are survivors of trauma, we get re-triggered. I don't give a shit how much therapy you've had or how much money you've spent on personal development. It lives in your cells, and that's an actual proven fact. So, what do you do on those days or those weeks where you are having a PTSD moment or you're re-triggered? How do you manage that now?
Oh my gosh. And this is a constant, I would say, battle or whatever you want to call it. One thing I've been able to do with myself is understand when when that's all happening, which I never knew before. And to say to I study a lot about addictions. My grandma asked me the other day, she's like, "Are you addicted to anything?" I said, "Yeah, everything I like, I'm addicted to." And so I'm happy I know that. And so instead of my old self would reach for a bottle of wine, drugs, men, whatever it was to help me soothe that part of myself that I didn't want to look at the pain, right? And so now I can look at the pain and I can stare it in the face and understand where it's come from. And that's the first thing I think that when I get triggered, I understand that this is not that. In fact, Tracy O'Malley gave me that quote when she came to one of my retreats to help me a couple months ago. This is not that. And as well as, I do have ADHD and I get very hypersensitive to, my senses are extraordinarily heightened. In fact, I just went to Lori Harder's Bliss Project. And I had then been to traffic and conversion and all these different things. And I was so overwhelmed that I knew I had to listen to my body and I had to go sleep. I never feel that way, but I had to. So I'm now able to say, like, this is not that. And I can separate my feeling, the actual overtaking hypersensitive feeling, which I say it feels like electricity. And I can say that that's not me. And I can kind of separate away from myself enough to where it doesn't overtake me anymore. And I just have to understand that I need to do more soothing types of things and also really look when those things happen, what types of people are in my life at that point. Because there's some toxic people that can be in my life or our life or whatever that looks like. And when you can see that maybe you need to move away from some of the things you're doing, people, places, whatever, and come back into yourself, I think that's when I'm able to get over the trigger reactions faster in a more positive, productive way now.
I love that. Our biggest clue that something is off is how we are feeling and how our physically, mentally, spiritually. But we have to slow down and do the work to even be willing to be aware of that. If you're not feeling good, you're feeling off. Yeah, sometimes it's like, okay, everything is not a big thing, right? So it could be, yeah, you have cold or allergies or whatever. But most of the time, like you said, there is something going on. And it doesn't have to be monumental. I mean, I'll give a quick example of something I just recently discovered about myself. Like you were saying, addictions, right? You guys probably have listened to the episode. If not, you need to. That I had on with my friend Tracy O'Malley, which was all about, right? We're all addicted to something. And I realized that I have a bit of an addiction to Instagram. Okay. Now, of course, as you know, right? Social media is part of our business. I usually am only addicted to things I love, like you said. I was wondering why I was feeling so drained and shitty in the morning. And I really couldn't figure it out, even though I'm hyper aware. Well, what I noticed is I was doing a lot of scrolling.
Yep.
Instead of maybe like reading or listening to a podcast or whatever, or journaling or something like that. I don't know. I just fell into this scrolling. Yep. And I like to say now, like, the scrolling can suck your soul.
Oh, girl, I was just talking to someone last night about this. In the last couple months, what I same exact with me. I would wake up. The first thing I would do is wake up, decide if I would hit snooze or not, and then pick up and go to Instagram and start scrolling in bed. My one eye was literally not open yet. I was doing that, and I thought I decided this isn't benefiting me, I don't think. Let me just see if that's what it could be. So I just decided, okay, keep the phone down, say 2 things you're grateful for in your mind, put your feet on the floor, be aware of your body, you know, get freshened up, drink your cup of coffee, whatever. And now I don't go on for at least 45 minutes to an hour. And I also turned all my notifications off on Instagram. And I'm much more thoughtful on, I do 1 post a day and that's it. I will scroll through, but once I get that, like you're saying, that just scroll into the dark hole, I'm like, I say to myself, is this serving me? Is this serving me right now to do this? Am I reading your post that's making me feel intrigued, excited? Are these people I'm following benefiting my life, my brain, my day to day? Because I'll be honest, if you look, I follow like 400 people, and that's because I unfollow all the people that are just not really serving my day to day life, I guess you would say. I don't need to follow all these people that are like, I don't know. That's just my own thought process.
I think you make such a great point. And I wanted to share that example. I'm glad you shared your experience too. I know so many of you guys listening. I know for a fact you guys go down that like scrolling hole. Again, take a screenshot right now if you're loving this episode and tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany and tag at Everything Jenny Taylor. It's JennyTaylor. It takes you 2 damn seconds. This way we know if you love the episode. Plus, then you can easily connect and say hey to Jenny and see what her stuff's all about. And you guys got to also make sure you look at her page, not just for the fact that she has beautiful photos, but she is one of those people you would want to follow. You know what I'm saying? So go unfollow some asshole and then follow her. Like, how about that for a takeaway? And what I mean by an asshole is some skinny ass bitch who's sitting like in Bali drinking champagne and letting you believe that she's making 7 figures while #living her best life. Like, you know what? Get rid of that person.
Okay, totally. I heard this from Garrett White. I don't know if you know him from Wake Up Warrior. And he's amazing. You got to look him up. He's in Southern California. And so I talked to him once and he said, would you rather be popular on social media or paid on social media? And I'm like, wow, that's such a good thing to think. Like, there's so many people out there. And I was just going to say, there's so many people out there that are in Bali drinking this champagne, and great. And if that's your life and that's what you like, perfect, awesome. I want everyone to be happy. But in reality, like, we all need to watch that and say, is this all for the cameras? Or, we all have a depth and a soul, but we need to be really cautious of like, my pictures are beautiful in Santorini, but that's not what the whole person is about. So are you following people that are unable to say, I have this problem, I've been through this, I have this trauma? Because if you're following those types of people, there's not much depth there. So if you're a superficial, fake type of person that just wants to see a bunch of beautiful stuff, great. I mean, that's cool. But at the end of the day, like, is your life going to grow? Are you going to grow with following those type of people? Are you going to learn about yourself? Are you going to form deep friendships, communication, things like that? Is that what you want? Like, because I think everyone listening, like, there's either 1 or 2 options. You can either follow along with my life's perfect, I'm drinking champagne, whatever, or, hey, this person like is talking about bankruptcy or talking about, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just more attracted to those people like you that are able to open up and be vulnerable and be real, because that's, I think, where the real connection and deepness comes from.
And you guys, like how Jenny said, like her question to herself is this serving me? And I have a version of that. Mine is this nurturing? Is this nurturing? And I say this before I eat too, because I've been known to use food as well. I mean, I used everything.
Me too.
But it's like, what's up, Ben and Jerry's cookie dough? Thank you. And then I justified it by only picking out the cookie dough and eting it. So I was like, well, I really didn't eat the pint because I only ate the cookie dough with a little bit of the ice cream out of the pint. Thank you. Well, I
love it.
I loved having you on and talking to you. Thank you so much for, seriously, your transparency, and thank God you did all the work you did. Very few of us do that work. And it's so important that those people who do it do something with it, because healed people can heal millions of people. So I'm so proud of everything you've done.
Thank you so much. And thank you for just being such an inspiration and one of those people on social media that is so exciting to watch, and just for being so vulnerable and real out there. Like, let's together build this tribe of people that are like, hey, like follow us, and like, let's all have these, I don't know, we should do a big, I don't know how we can do it, but create some sort of group of people that are looking to find that real deep connection with others. So important. So thank you for everything you do.
Of course. All right. I will love to see all of the tags that you guys are giving us on today's episode. So if you love this, it's really important. Again, take that screenshot right now, tag me, Project Me with Tiffany, and at everything Jenny Taylor, JennyTaylor. And also, if you have any follow-up questions or anything more personal that you want to reach out to connect to me or Jenny, just DM either of us. I know I didn't even ask her this before we came on, but I know that she replies to all of her DMs personally, and at least that way it's more private. So be sure to reach out. You guys aren't alone. Thanks for coming on, girl.
Thanks so much for having me. Have an awesome day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.